Hello, welcome aboard. My name is Alma, and this is One Left Inboard. Today, I'm responding to a Reddit post. Itchy somewhere _ somewhere 5786. Great name. Says, am I built for this job? I am 20 and started a flight attendant job for a regional airline in August of 2024. I dread getting called to fly. I hate it. Everyone says it'll get better once I'm off reserve. Here's my list of cons. I want to see if this is first year settling or if I'm actually not fit for this job, or maybe give me some tips on how to manage these things better. Before I dive into my response, a little bit about me. I am a flight attendant for a major legacy carrier based here in the US, and I've been a flight attendant for 2 years. Several little bullet points here featuring challenges that Itchy Somewhere is facing. And as much as I'm going to try, I have a feeling my answers are always going to fall back to join the main line. And that I don't think is very effective advice. So I will try to stray away from that and just give answers as best as I can. I'm going to have to leave some of these questions to the audience because I'm not able to relate to some of them. Hot standby reserve, sitting at the airport for 8 hours, getting paid for 4, depressing, and not getting paid for my real life time. So I think every flight attendant does not get paid for some of their time. I've never sat longer than 3 hours for a sit. However, the airport standby or airport reserve, we do have those at my airline. We sit for 4 hours and then we're released if we're not used. And we're actually released until midnight 01. So we're done for the day when we're done if we haven't been used. We do get paid for that entire sit, maybe a little extra change on our way. I can't really remember. It's been a while since I've done it. But not sitting for 8 hours, pardon the noise, not sitting for 8 hours and only getting paid for half of that. Can't explain anything about that. That's crazy. Come to mainline. 2 hour call outs, 3 a.m. reserve time. I live an hour away. I have to get up at 3 to go. It's just a bad feeling. So our reserve is midnight to midnight for my airline. And if we're called for a rotation, we have 2 hours to get to the airport. So I don't know if that's industry standard. I know that we do have a few bases that maybe have additional airports, and those flight attendants get 3 hours to respond. It just seems maybe like an industry thing. I can't speak to if that's very bad or very good, just because I was aware that was going to happen. As far as it's a bad feeling, you may want to get closer, a very, very cheap crash pad situation, a couch surfing situation, something that gets you right outside of that airport the night before. Relationships, life, and work balance is terrible. Most people I talk to who do this long term don't have any relationships or close family out of this job. I'm big on family and being with my significant other. I find it hard to dish out my time to spend with everyone when I'm barely around. So for me personally, this is completely opposite. I feel like I have so much more time to spend with people and a lot of work-life balance that wasn't there for me before. I worked upwards of 340 days a year, several years in a row, and definitely over the course of my 6 years with that particular company, an average of 320 to 340 a year. Very busy bee. And when I was working, of course, you wake up, you have time to do all the morning things, let the dogs out, shower and get ready, head to work, however far you have to drive, work all day. Maybe you hit the gym after, and then you get home. You need to make dinner, decompress, etc. You just have a few hours before you need to go to bed to do it all over again. To share with anyone. And that's just not a lot of time. If you have children, perhaps they have extracurricular activities you have to tend to, sports and the like, homework, projects, etc. And those things are really going to eat into the evening. So if you all get home at 6 and everybody needs to be in bed by 10, That's 4 hours you're spending with your loved ones. I have 15 days a month that are mine. I own them from midnight to midnight, 12 to 15 of those days that I have off are mine. I no longer commute. I can spend them however I want. If I want to travel to see family and friends, if I want to hang out with people right here where I live, if I want to be alone, whatever I want to do, but I just have what seems infinitely more time to do it. Food packing efficiently for long trips is hard and feels wasteful buying food that I won't even use because I'm on trips so long that I can't keep up with everything expiring. Did an entire episode about this. The too long didn't read is don't overpack. You may want to go out with crew members or by yourself to food destinations like New York pizza, etc. You also need to keep things cold by freezing them. From the start, they're cold. They act as an ice pack. Also bring ice packs. And if you need to, ask the receptionist at the front desk to freeze your ice packs and maybe even refrigerate your whole lunch bag if your room does not have a fridge like they often do not. And don't overpack. Again, as I mentioned, don't overpack and pack things that you will turn to that will keep you from swiping that debit card when you haven't intentionally intended to do so. Allow myself to introduce myself. Pay. I get paid less than I did at 16 working retail, way less than serving. That's crazy. Come over to Mainline. No connection. No, okay. I won't breeze right over that. I know that people have reasons that they stay with their mainline carriers. Obviously, every airline needs flight attendants, and every airline has flight attendants with seniority. So if people are staying, there is a reason why. And I don't want to minimize the loyalties and love that these flight attendants have for their regional carriers. If you don't have those feelings towards your carrier, come over to the mainline. We have money. No connections. We don't work with coworkers long enough to build any connections. Just see them one trip or a couple if you're lucky, and none again, like starting a new job every time you work. Honestly, one of my favorite features of being a flight attendant, I love lots of my coworkers, and I did at my other company that had nothing to do with flight attending, but going into the same office every day and seeing the same people while we do the same work, it was a very specific anxiety for me. So I do love the constantly varying day to day, but also I do make professional friends. I think, we sort of jump seat confessions is a real thing. We will trauma dump on each other and we will confide in each other because it's like, I don't have to see this person. I don't have to really, I don't want to say care, but I don't have to care what they think of me. They see that I'm a good flight attendant and a great coworker, and that's all that matters. So we just share all the shareable things, and then we'll just touch base. Hey, how was, your mom's surgery? How was that, thing with your kid's school, and all those things. And as, not so sincere as it may sound, I actually find a great deal of sympathy, empathy, and care from flight attendants who just check in. How are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing? Whatever it is. I love that. And I love doing that. So there are ways to make friends that are actually kind of, if you had a very best friend that was going through something, you would have to be there for them in a really big way. And when you fly for free and they know it, by there, I mean literally there, and they're going to want you there. So some of these connections that aren't as demanding and labor intensive, effort intensive, not to say we don't love them and appreciate them, but they are amazing and a good little, I don't want to say acquaintance, but a good little connection that isn't another thing that needs all of us, like the entirety of ourselves. I love that. So it's not lost on me, however, this doesn't happen every time. And the nature of constantly changing crews can sort of have a baked in loneliness to it. And so definitely pay attention to the relationships you brought into this career, siblings, besties, etc., partners, and foster those, nurture those, keep them going. Strict attendance policy with no structure. Calling out for a tornado and being surrounded by trees down was way harder than you might think. 4 days for a close family funeral. Are they clueless on the timeline of funeral planning? So as far as that natural disaster thing goes, I'm not trying to say you're 20. You don't even know. I don't know if maybe, like, have you read your commuter policy? Is there a policy in place? It just seems like maybe by law they're required to be like, oh, a tree is down. Makes sense that you would have to take a way that you've never gone before, and that would make you late. Or like, oh, a tornado is happening. Don't drive in that. I'm not really sure the legalities of that. I just know that for my airline, when crazy things happen, I get a text message, and I guess it's based on my home of record. Are you okay? Here's some phone numbers and emails to people that might be able to help you if you require assistance. And so I'm sorry that's not happening for you. I'm sorry that you felt you had to sort of get a doctor's note for a tree in the road. I bring the receipts. Like, I was there in water. I was getting a little nervous that I was about to drive into an ocean that did not exist the day before, but was certainly on the roads at that time. And I kept watching the cars in front of me, and the level of water was creeping up the side of doors for much lower cars than mine, but it was getting dicey. And if I had to enact my commuter policy, and for the purpose of this conversation, commuting isn't just getting on an airplane, it's driving it as well. I will bring the receipts. Please feel free to reach out with any additional questions. You won't have any. I promise. I'm going to answer them all, and I'm going to bring receipts. And I couldn't get to work, and that's that. I go to work. I like work. I need to pay my bills, and I want to be a flight attendant for this airline. So I'm going to come to work. But if I can't, because I'm going to drive into a road ocean, I will give you the receipts. Please don't feel free to reach out. I've said all I had to say. Funerals, bereavement. I'm not sure about that policy either. I think 3 days is what I remember, like, bereavement leave being, but I just think it depends. If you need to go to the funeral of a person that you care about, you want to pay respects to them and their family, that's one thing. But if you lose, like, your parents or your child or your sibling, like, I'm going to be bedridden. I might be in the hospital, so I will return to work as soon as safely possible, because you don't want an insane person on an airplane, especially if it's the flight attendant. So I can't speak to that. If other flight attendants have gone through that, and that's another thing that just hasn't happened, very fortunately, knocking on wood here lightly, if any other flight attendants for mainline, specifically legacy carriers, can speak to any troubles they've had getting off of work for funerals or grieving, bereavement, etc., please help us out. I did want to back up to pay for a second. A lot of companies, including my airline, they have financial literacy incentives. They have counselors that will help you understand how to budget and how to do one and how to stick to it. And you can even chat with them ever so often to feel a little bit more held accountable. So I'm not saying you're 20 and you don't know how to budget. You grew up with the YouTubes and all of those fantastic budgeters and financially savvy people that, so you may know how to do it. But if you don't, you do have resources, both, again, the countless number of videos that have been made about it. And then also my airline, if you make a little bird's nest or nest egg or bird egg nest, not really, they will match your money. And, contribute I think it is matched, but I don't want to say that, but they will contribute something, and that is free money. So definitely, if you don't know, ask around. If you have an employee handbook or maybe Reddit has like a subreddit for just your airline. You can reach out to flight attendants and ask them about stuff like that. But certainly mainline. And again, I didn't want to try to evangelize and proselytize and just always bring over to the mainline. But yeah, come over. We have money. No support or stable higher up. I'm constantly getting messages from different supervisors for an update on how I'm doing, or having no clue who can help with what. Or when you call, you get a new person every time, and it depends on their attitude if you can actually get help. I have no idea. I can't speak to this. Other people, please chime in. I would like to say that our leadership's got it right, but I don't know, because in 2 years I have not dealt with them. I don't know those people. I do not know those people. I'm sure I could dig in an email and find my particular manager's number. I do have the duty desks of major flight attendant bases. They're, larger airports, in case something's happening like in real time. But typically, like, what would that be? Flight attendant's missing? I'm going to call the police. No, I'm going to call crew scheduling, and I'm going to reach out to that flight attendant, and then I actually probably would call the police if I couldn't find a flight attendant. It would be pretty quickly 911's being called. And then I would keep the duty desk, and they're actively working. I mean, what is my manager going to do? They might be on vacation. They might be at home. They're certainly not where I am. So yeah, I don't know what you're talking to these people about. I had one time on a working crew, we just had a new flight attendant, not new, but a new to the rotation flight attendant hop on with us. She got the call on reserve. And the gate agent was really putting the hate in gate. No, that didn't work out. The gate agent, who was just super nasty, was like, oh, well, this isn't the same flight attendant from before, so you can't come on. The reservation's not for you. And I had this like ink pen with operations number on it, and so I just called that. And like in 3 minutes, like whole time conversation, everything, they were like, done. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the only time in 2 years I ever had to call anybody. The end. If anybody can speak to no stable or supportive higher ups, I can't say that we have it going very well, because I don't know. I've never had to use it. Never had to use them. Who are they? We don't know. We do not care. Strict attendance, we already discussed that. Let's see. Stress and constant anxiety, no stability of knowing. Even on regular reserve days, I'm burdened with constant anxiety. Doesn't matter if I'm sure I won't get called. Just anxious. I've never been an anxious person. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. Come over to mainline. That's crazy. I don't think I fully understand how your reserve system works. I don't know if you're allowed to have a part-time job. I don't know if you have days that aren't reserve and you're able to pick up trips from other flights. I don't know anything about it, but I would be very anxious too, I think, just from what I'm understanding. For me, I have certainly less than 5 times in 2 years been called in the night for a trip. They typically know the day before, and I get assigned the trip the night before, and then I preference, and so that helps out, because typically I'm not senior at all, but if I preference, I'm able to get that, and then I just sort of get notified pretty quickly. I know when they run those assignments and awards and all that good stuff, so I'm on the lookout for that. But I don't know. I mean, I've been anxious the night before. Like when I was still in school, every night before the first day of school, I couldn't sleep. And even as confident and comfortable as I am in the position of flight attendant and flight leader, I sometimes in the night, use the bathroom. And then when I come back, I'll check the rotation. Do I still have pilots? Do I still have flight attendants? Blah, 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 blah. So I can understand that. As far as just like day in and day out anxiety, it may be because you don't believe that you have all your ducks in a row. Excuse me. I think that like being timely, like knowing you're on time, having all your stuff packed, having multiple alarms set, having your phone all the way on ring and like sort of putting it away, away. So, I know the dumb anxieties where you're like, what if I am sleepwalking and throw my phone against the wall and break it and crew scheduling? Like, of course I'm exaggerating, but like, I get it. But just have all your ducks in a row. Like, just know that know what you're doing to begin with. Know that you know what you're doing, and then just prepare as much as you can. And that should ease your anxiety. And I know you said, even if you know that you're not going to get called or whatever, it's still you're responsible. Like, you're already having the argument of like, I didn't know. Like, no, don't do that. Just be prepared. Just be prepared. And I think that will lessen your anxiety. Otherwise, any flight attendants or pilots that can speak to this constant anxiety on reserve, please help this user out. I don't have time to use benefits effectively or efficiently, My days are unpredictable and I often don't get scheduled the way that I bid because I'm so new. I get to let my family use it, but I have no real time to enjoy what may be the best part of this job. Come over to Mainline. We have money. No, come over to Mainline. We have cooler destinations. No, I don't know. I have no idea how your schedule works. I will say that I typically work 3 days on, 4 days off. Of course, that is not always the case. Sometimes I have 2 rotations back to back. If that does happen, it's only once a month. And I have a total of 12 to 15 days off consistently for this entire 2 years. And of course, sometimes I do pick up trips, but to start with, I have all that time off. I can also drop some trips sometimes. I have successfully done that. Very common. And then all of a sudden, I will have all these days off. One time I even picked up a cool trip to Hawaii. I was already all the way on the other side of the country for something. Somebody picked up a trip that I needed to go back to base for, and also where I live. They picked it up so I didn't have to rush right back. And I checked out that outside schedule, and they had a cool trip over to Hawaii. So boom, there I am working, getting paid, gorgeous layover resort, and working, getting paid, coming back. So it was like a little paid vacation. Cute. We loved her. It was a long layover, like 26 hours. But yeah, I do understand, because you want you want some time to get back. You want to know that you can get back for your rotation. So I had all these destinations in mind, and I just haven't, because a lot of times I just want to be home and have a routine and go to the gym and cook my own food and be with my dogs and all that good stuff. And then other times I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to go. But especially those cooler international destinations that you may want to be visiting, you do want to have like a day and a half on either side of that trip to be able to get back in base, or like make it onto a flight rather. So I get that, but Mainline, maybe you'll have a more stable like schedule, and maybe you'll have more days off, but also like enough working days to have the money to do anything. I don't know. I can't speak to this. All I know is that I don't use, and sad, isn't it? I was a traveler before and I just don't use them a lot. Like if I'm just zipping over to like see friends or family, like cool. But as far as like vacation, I'm just kind of like, what trip could I work? Ooh, French Polynesia, bam, get paid to go there. Don't pay for the hotel, get paid to come back. It's, I'm boring and cheap. I've worked hard, unpredictable jobs before. I promise this isn't just me being not acclimated to working. I'm just struggling, and at the moment, I'm feeling weakness. I love traveling, seeing new things. I use every second of long layovers or out of base reserves to explore, but I'm tired and confused and struggling. I want to love this job because I worked hard to be here. Any insight or help, harsh or whatnot, is accepted. This seems super negative, but it's real. I believe you. It is real. And I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. Here's what I will tell you. Close your eyes, unless you're driving. Now picture yourself on an airplane. Don't picture what name is painted on the side of the airplane or what uniform you're wearing. You are in the role of flight attendant and you're on an airplane. You're doing safety demos, walkthroughs, services, You're teaching people how numbers work because they don't know where their seat is, even though it says 12A. And they're not quite sure where 12 might be. And you're teaching them, and you're patient, and you're loving it. You're pouring coffee, and in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, if anything happens, this is what I'm going to do, depending on what emergency your intrusive thoughts are guiding you through. Picture that. Then you're rushing through the airports to get to your next gate, and you're dragging your luggage into the hotel room, and you're flopping down on that big fluffy bed, and you're watching Golden Girls until you fall asleep. And there you were thinking that you were going to be throwing that self in a circle out at the party scene and whatever cool glamorous layover you thought. We're not thinking of layovers right now. We're thinking of being a flight attendant on an airplane, and we're pouring coffee and sodas and juices, and we're repeating snack options, and we're saying the same thing to this passenger that we just said to that passenger, and this passenger didn't even have their headphones in. They heard everything, but we're saying it again. If you like that, if you're cool with that being your work, then this job is for you. And you just need to go to an airline that compensates you better, a company that has similar values to you, has good scheduling, has good pay, has good destinations for your little non-rev, and you need to go do it over there. If all the stuff I just mentioned you do not like, don't do it. Don't do it. Your schedule is going to just get better. Your ability to bid that schedule your seniority is going to get higher. You're going to get what you want. Those fancy layovers and stuff that you're thinking of, that will get better. That's not what we're talking about. Just the nature of what you're going to do as a flight attendant. If you like it, this job is for you. If you don't, it's not. But it's not lost on me that you're facing some challenges that definitely need some help. You need some help. And as I said in the beginning, I didn't want to keep trying to say mainline. But I feel like maybe, or here, let me rephrase that. I would like to present to you the possibility that you do like this job. And maybe you just need to do it for a different airline. Only you know the answer, however. Ladies, gentlemen, aviation professionals, passengers who snuck over here, I don't know why you're here. Aviation professionals, if you have anything to add, please add that on her or his original post. That's itchy_somewhere_5786. And the post was titled, "Am I Made for This Job?" And you can leave your supportive words, comments, and recommendations for them there in that comment section. Of course, if you leave them on my channel, I will just paste a link to that original post so that that poster can find it. So no worries, wherever you post your remarks, I'm sure Itchy Somewhere will find them. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Alma, and this has been One Left Inboard.